That means we're live for week two, right?
We are.
Excellent. Good. I can see some people but jumping on. Whew.
Hey, Rich. Yo, yo. Yeah. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I was able to take a reprieve from drinking so much caffeine for the past few weeks, trying to stay ahead of things. And so I went cold turkey with massive caffeine headaches on both Saturday and Sunday. Needless to say, I couldn't get much done, but I feel much better today because of it. So there's that. Unpaid Uber driver driving my kids around. All
What,
right.
you don't charge your kids? No, joking. Yeah.
1 hour earlier in Europe, thanks to wintertime. Right on, Alex. Good evening. David, summer is finally here. Beach time. That's true. And here it is like winter just starting for us. Hey, Stephen. All right. Time to hit the slopes here. Exactly, Kelly. Exactly. You are reading my mind, my friend. Soon enough. I am drinking coffee now, but I'm having a very reduced amount today. So yes, um, I have to kind of still use a bit. I'm not to the point where I can't. I've been going too hard for too long with it. So it's a 5 cups. Goodness gracious, no way. I was having basically 4 shots of espresso every day and sometimes five just to get through. I had some major projects coming up right before the workshop that really took a lot more time and energy. I was working day and night. Um, so yeah, had to kind of take a reprieve from it this weekend. So was able to reset the system a little bit. But yeah, still need a bit to get through and do things on weekdays. Yeah. 5 espresso would kill you. Yeah. I've built up a tolerance. I've been drinking coffee since I was about 14 years old. Have I tried matcha? Yes. I hate it. I can't stand it. Anyways, okay. So here we are, starting week two. Welcome. You made it, right? The first week was the hard week. This week, you know how everything goes. And now it's just about filling in the gaps, making sure the test goes along the way it should. I know there are some concerns for some of you who have seen your ad show up in your newsfeed and it has a different number of lines rather than what it shows in the preview box or what we have shown you in the way that it's structured. That does happen from time to time. It's something we cannot control. And, you know, Dr. Nick said it best. The fact is, as long as your body copy is exactly the same in every single one, which it should be, then it's still isolating only one variable, which is the pain. And so, or the benefit, right? So it's entirely okay. It does not devalidate the test. You are free to continue on, and it's a valid test, which still gives us good data. We've had to deal with these things before, and it hasn't been an issue. So if you see that showing up in your newsfeed, breathe a sigh of relief. It's okay. It's not messing anything up, and you'll continue on. So today is all about debriefing. A lot of you are very close or done with your benefit tests. We want to debrief some of that today, and then also answer questions about challenges, and also look at and coach you on your challenges. Right. And some of you may just be looking to get your benefit test set up, you know, a few days behind, which is entirely okay. If so, don't feel like you're behind. We're still here. So it's just that when we start teaching later this week on things, uh, you know, you'll be learning things that are going to be for you a few days later, but you'll still learn it, you know. So that's all. All right, on over to the doctor.
Well, I just wanted to congratulate everyone. I kept tabs on the group over the weekend. And in Sydney, the sun was out, the sky was blue. And so we were having fun, but I was checking in and I can see just a lot of people posting your results. So fantastic work, everyone, for getting that done, no matter what stage you're at. You're all crushing it. And let me turn that off. So the goal today is not to really do too much teaching and just to really jump in and help everyone move forward. So if you would like to put your hand up, you've got a PBC2 that's done, and now you want us to go over your challenges. Um, or your PVC2 is going to be done today and you want us to go over your challenges. But if that's set up, if you're still stuck, if you're someone who hasn't been able to launch yet, you can definitely put a question in the webinar chat and we can see if we can bring you out. But the goal today really is for those who are going through finishing PVC2, wanting to get to PVC3. That's what we wanted to get going as much as we can. So if you are up for it, I dare you to raise your hand and let's bring you on out and let's get some things sorted for you.
Yeah, Martine, it's a great question. Are you going to explain how to place the challenges within the headlines? I'm not sure how to construct the phrase. Yes, that's a great question.
So Martina, do
Let's
you want to come out?
Sure. Martine, you okay with that? We can do it with yours right away. Let's see. Mark, is that
With
Michael? Do you? She
the
hasn't.
Seymour.
She hasn't. Yes. Let me get my challenges. Okay. Cool. I'm bringing her out.
The Seymour, my experience with doing the Seymour, because we've been looking at that from very early days when we started running the workshop. For the most part, it's complicated to calculate, and the Seymour, for the most part, pretty much just mirrors the CTR rule anyway. So maybe sometimes when we've been measuring Seymour, um, you got two CTR all winners, and maybe one of them has a higher Seymour rate. And so we may use that as some kind of indicator around what to do. But for the most part, the reason we don't measure it specifically and get everyone to set it up is that doing this is complicated enough to get right without then having to get everyone trying to set up the formula for Seymour. So that's what we do. So there isn't a specific thing about how good they should be. When we start seeing CTR rules because the Seymour rate's always going to be less than the overall CTR rule because it excludes things, right? But for the most part, if we see CTR rules that are under 2, we kind of know that maybe those pains aren't hitting properly, and so that's what we'll look at. We won't need to dig deeper into the Seymour to see if that's the reason why. We can tell pretty much just from the CTR rule, and it's just easier to measure.
Yes, it is. Okay, so Martina first, and then we'll have Stephen afterwards. Unless he pronounces Stefan, I'm going to have to check with him on that one. I might have forgotten. Um, all right, conversion events. We'll get all that handled. Hey, Dave, I see you raising your hand in there. If you want to come out, let me know in the chat. I'll get you loaded up. You could go third. Okay, cool. All right, Martina, how are you?
I'm well, and you guys you both look good.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll take that. Thank you.
Take that on
I
any
welcome
day.
all compliments, even underhanded ones. I'll just take them all positive.
So yes, I wasn't quite sure. So on my PBC tour, the winner was Word Mastery. He's got a 5.81 CTR all, and following that, he had a clear understanding with 5.2, I think. So now I guess the winner would be how Italian learners go from limited vocabulary to word mastery. So this is the winning combination for now. And what I thought you might, was going to be the lesson of today. How to insert the challenge within the sentence. Does it go in between? And would it sound something like how Italian learners go from limited vocabulary to word mastery without boring textbooks?
You are 100% exactly right.
Really? I'm just throwing it out there. Just
It's funny how the test is actually simple once you learn it. You're like, oh, yeah, of course, right? It's kind of natural. But in fact, the thing that makes it unique is the element system we're testing it with. And that's the real thing that makes it unique. Many people can do a three-phase test with isolating three different variables of a message, but it's our element system that matters. And so you've got to have the definitions for that, obviously. But yes, the structure we use with our challenges are very simple. It's using them at the end, and we just have to use a word that makes it make complete sense. The most common one is saying the word without, right? Sometimes, if you need to save space, the word despite also, because it's about a letter or two shorter than without, that sometimes it makes the difference between it being cut off or not being cut off. So you could do either without or despite, but obviously make sure that you would want to have the same word with all of your tests. So either without in all of them or despite in all of them. Don't mix them up, because sometimes that can actually change. It's not a big deal if you have to do that, but it's clearer if we're using everything uniform, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that using the word without or despite is going to make much of a difference, because the elements is what really carries the click. But sometimes, depending on the words, without or despite can just change a little bit of somebody's perception of it. So it's not that it's wrong, but sometimes it's not as clear as to how someone would reply or respond to it if it was without rather than despite, or despite rather than without. So just picking one uniform is the best way to go there. And so
I think in my case, without would work better, because it actually, it would have a slightly different meaning to use despite than without in this context of what I'm testing, I think. So in this case, then we would keep the entire root of the sentence would be the winning pain, the winning benefit, and then without only these bits, like we did before, will be the ones we change throughout the 5 tests.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So what was your PBC2 winner again? It was number 5?
It was word mastering, this one here, and which is so interesting. I didn't think this would actually work. And as we said, right? As you said, often I thought it would be more like a rich communication would be. I think I shared it. Let me see if I can bring the results that were here.
Yes, please do. I want to be able to show everyone seeing the differences here. Just from one phrase in terms of what people understand is not always what our own cognitive biases actually tell us.
If I can bring it here. I wonder if you can see this one in big.
Yeah. Okay.
So as you can see, these two are very close. Word mastery and clear understanding. I actually thought the ones that would win would be these two, cultural belonging and rich communication, because it's what you think people want when they learn a language. But I guess the word mastery goes well with the root pain, which is limited vocabulary. So this will be very interesting when we test the other pains, because as you remember, if you remember, my pains were very close. In CTRL, it will be very interesting when I test other pains. Probably the benefits will be different. They match those other pains. But I think this word mastery goes really well with limited vocabulary, because it's about not knowing enough words.
But what's funny is you never would have tested that if you didn't go through this test.
No.
That's
no,
the
I would have thought
that
what is really important for someone who's learning a language is to fit in, to feel they can communicate with the people of that particular language, to feel they belong to the culture, or the confidence, feeling confident. I wouldn't think word mastery probably would have been the last one. Honestly, I would have been the last one.
Do you remember me saying that in my info video, that oftentimes people think what was going to test the best, test the worst?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the concept of the expert's curse?
I've heard it, but I don't really know.
So the expert's curse, the definition of the expert's curse means you are so close to your solution, you naturally assume that everybody else knows more about it than they do. And so this test allows us to start doing combinations we wouldn't normally do to see what people respond to, without us saying, oh, that would never work because we know our product the best. which you do, but you don't necessarily always know your prospect the best. I have had people who have come to me that have spent millions and millions of dollars, and then we do a PBC process with them. And it turns out they were doing one of the lowest click rates that they could possibly have in their combinations. And when they saw the PBC tester, realized they could have made double the money over the $1 million they've spent and their profit. It was like they almost wanted to throw up because to vomit. They were like, oh my God, I've lost so much money because I basically put my ladder up against the wrong building, you know? And that's what happens here. So this is the gift that keeps on giving, because for you, what's good about this is all of your pains were very close. So you literally have 5 different pains you will be able to create a specific string of pain benefit challenge with, and they're all going to go to different pockets of people. And the cool part about that is that you'll be able to go back to the same audience that a lot of people think they cannot go back to because they're just trying to get one ad and just blast it everywhere. You can take that same ad that's a different message, PBC combination than the other one, and go back to the same audience that you thought burned out, but they only burned out on the other message. And you give them a new message, and you have new people who respond to that new message that did not respond to the old message
To the other one.
because it wasn't primary for them, right? But this is how you get so much more out of the same audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really quite magical, isn't it? The whole thing is quite magical, the way that you can combine so many pieces and get different
Yeah, I had a
pockets.
wizard wake me up in the middle of the night and he showed me this magical process, and then he went away and I've never heard from him again. That's sarcasm for those of you who can't read sarcasm. My wife speaks fluent sarcasm, so I've learned, right? I wasn't naturally good at sarcasm. Yeah. Okay. So at this point, yes, you're without or just, using that word to connect. Now here is a guideline for you. What you're going to find is usually in your below creative headline, if you're using a common bond that takes up a lot of space and a pain that takes up a lot of space, you might run out of room for your challenge, and your challenge might get cut off in your below creative headline. If that is the case, now this is just for the below creative headline, okay? The above creative headline, you should have plenty of space. And if you don't, you haven't been doing it right. Using way too many words. So you shouldn't have to worry about your above creative headline having enough room. You should have enough room for your challenge. But in the below creative headline, you have less room. So the thing that we have to usually cut out of the below creative headline, only if you don't have room for all elements. Okay. So only if they all fit, leave them all in there.
Mm.
But the one you're going to cut, if you do, is the pain. Actually, I'm saying something I'm not thinking right in my head. I think I might need more coffee. Nick, I think the best one to take out is the common bond in this particular case, isn't it?
It's either the common bond, or sometimes it's dropping the how and just going from pain to benefit without challenge.
Yeah.
Because
and if that's all you have to do, great. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, because sometimes that is enough, just removing that to do it. And then, and what I've typically tended to do is, yeah, and then, like you said, common bond, because if you leave the pain, it's pretty hard to say how, from pain without challenge. That doesn't have the context. And so
it's two negatives.
Yeah. That's right. So often you've got to still have a contrast, and you go how to benefit without challenge. But the first thing to do, I've often found, is dropping the how. If I've started my headline with how, I kind of remove that introductory filler word, only because they're seeing that first in the viewport anyway. And then we just really want to reinforce it. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. We just need to reinforce the contrast, and in some way, is what they've read above. That's all.
Okay.
So for instance, in this case, it would be from limited vocabulary to word mastery without, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So the first thing you're usually going to cut is the common bond.
Mm-hmm.
Now now let me help you all understand, because I hesitate to do this, but this is important to know moving forward. So listen to me very carefully. All right. All of you, pay attention to this. All right. Usually the thing we want to cut is the common bond in the below creative headline. And again, only if you don't have enough room to complete everything. Okay. There are times where it makes more sense to cut the pain and leave the common bond. Okay. So it's not an exact, this is correct, this is not correct, because what we're looking to do is for that person to still understand the overall problem we're solving. And sometimes the common bond signals the problem better than the pain does. Okay. So there are times where you're going to use your judgment on this. And we typically cut the common bond and leave the pain because it signals the problem better. Okay. But there are times where a common bond, just by the nature of it, let me give you an example, cancer survivor, right? Or suffering with cancer or something, right? As an extreme example. That common bond of like cancer survivor or cancer patient, right? We know that signals what we know what cancer means, right? So that very clearly states the problem. So there might be times where cutting the pain and leaving the common bond is the better way to go. But in most cases, the pain is the better thing to keep, cutting the common bond, because the common bond is still in the above creative headline. So they still know who the common bond is. So in essence, you really cannot go wrong with cutting either one of them because it's been stated above. And this is only confirming what you've got in your above creative headline. And the below creative headline is the last thing they read after they've read the top and looked at the image. Okay. So it's not wrong either way, but typically and in most cases, we like to cut the common bond and leave the pain. And there's other times where it feels better and sounds right to cut the pain and leave the common bond. I'm going to leave that up to you, but here is the only difference. You have to make sure that you do it for all of the tests in your challenge test. You can't cut the pain from one and then cut the common bond from another. You need to have it uniform, or else that introduces different variables into the test. And we are right now still isolating one variable, and that's the challenge. So everything needs to be exactly the same. Does that make sense? Can I get a yes in the chat
Yes.
if it makes sense, and a no if it doesn't? We need, that's clear. Like this will mess up your entire test if that doesn't make sense. All right. We've got good participation today. Right on, right on. Okay. Thank you, Greg. Cutting for CBA. Okay, all right, Aja. Tend to see the add to my iPhone. But we'll get there, Aja. Sorry, Asia. I'm sorry. I know of a few other people that pronounce Aja's natural for me. Okay, so Martina, any other questions?
No, I think it's clear, and it's just I think in the future then it will be picking the second best of the pain, that because mine were all very similar CTRL and do
Don't worry
another
about all of that right
combination.
now.
Yeah. No, okay.
Yes, you're right, but don't worry about that right now. We've got to
Yeah.
finish out because there's a whole process after this
After.
that we're going to bring you through. It's called our CIA process. I'm going to teach you how to do that. And then you guys are going to be able to do that and still have support from us in the group as you're setting those things up next week. So,
So
and even possibly this one.
I guess the next phase is to put is the helper to actually build the body message. Is that right, Chris? The next phase where you will help us in this part.
Yes, but after you finish your PBC process, that's when we're going to address changing the body copy. And I'm going to give you guys a format for that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you
very
both.
welcome. Absolutely.
Thank you both.
I'm putting you back in. Okay. Let's see here. And Stephen, let's do it.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, so I didn't actually come on last week with PBC one. I didn't have a lot of questions, but for context, I do a lot of advertising for epoxy contractors. And actually, I'd never used any of these paints in my ads. I had been using internal pains, like things like being embarrassed of your garage floor. So these were new, but I had a clear winner. And so these are the results from my first round. Stained, which was thrown in to your point earlier, was thrown in as an afterthought. I'm like, I was coming up with different things and I thought of stained, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's kind of obvious. That's not really gonna be a top winner, but of course it was. So
Sorry.
so went there, yeah, and then same thing with my second round. Puff was a filler. I was trying to think of other words. I was trying to think of one syllable words. So I came up with tough, and I'm like, that's pretty basic. That's not gonna. And again, what I thought did not rise to the top. So tough and some of these things. I was using beautiful a lot in my ads. Durable, of course, they're at the bottom. Thank God, easy to keep cleans at the bottom. It's a little wordy, but yeah, I didn't have a ton of questions. I guess the biggest thing I was curious about was already in the chat thread. Um, I think intuitively I was expecting a jump in each phase of these tests. Like, oh, we're gonna layer two things and like the aggregate's gonna make something magical happen. And it did, it's higher. My lowest CTR here is, 50% higher than my lowest one from the first test. But I don't know what were the expectations? Like, how are we supposed to judge um if our results are good, average, not good? Um, I did get a bump. 4.5% is, uh, a little bit higher than my last round, but I was hoping to get your input on like how I should be judging that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's very simple. You're looking at the trend, not the number. So
Okay.
when it comes to your CTR all, sometimes the CTR alls don't even change from your pain to your benefit test. And that's entirely okay. What it's doing is it's validating that message is still getting that type of a response instead of the other benefits that may cause the response to go down, right? So every market is different. Every offer is different. Every pocket of audiences that you're targeting is different. And so there's going to be some of you who are going to be in very competitive areas, like in fitness and certain things that just there's just so many offers and so many people and they've seen so many messages that they're not as responsive to messaging in that industry or niche or vertical like other industries are. That's why you see some people with a 14 CTR all, and we're all like, oh my God. And then everyone starts comparing themselves to them and says, why can't I have 14? Well, because you're in a competitive niche with a lot of other people, a lot more competition, and your CPMs are higher, and all these things happen. And so the best you might ever get is 3 to 4%, which is entirely okay. So you cannot compare yourself to other people because these will be very dependent upon your niche, your offer, and your vertical and that whole area. So ultimately, some people are going to have 3% CTR all and they're going to be comparing and going, this just seems low. Not really, especially if that's your spread. So you're looking at the trend between your own stuff because it's unique to your situation. Now, 4.5%, I would say, and I'd be happy with 4.5% all day long. That is still 3 times higher than the average of a Facebook ad CTR all. The average
Chris,
CTR all on Facebook is like 1.5% usually.
yeah, my benchmark before was like I was happy to get to two. And I've been running, I started an agency new this year. I started it after like a 20-year career in like leadership, technology leadership. Um, and I just started getting things going at the end of the spring, summer, and I was doing well. I was producing, solid leads for my clients, but I was lucky to get to two, and I never had anything. And to your point, I never had anything like this. To your point, I haven't had the time or the money to do testing in each individual market. And my epoxy contractors in Florida have a very different market than the one in Seattle and than LA, than Arizona, right? And I've taken what I've learned from the testing I'm running. This is all based on my guy in Arizona, and I'm using it for everyone because I'm just trying to get a higher baseline than what I currently had. And the same message that's getting me 4% here is getting me near 8% in Florida. So like it's weird how different markets are responding to the same message. And I know that if I do specific testing just for that market, I might even be higher than that, right? If I really tune it to that market. Um, but yeah, it's
The thing that
interesting.
happens there are some of these regional things, like regionally, there's different competition for certain services in different regions, different times of the year. Certain regions have different dialects that they talk. Obviously, a southern accent versus, northwest, is different, or versus Midwest accent. So there's different common verbiage used because the United States is so vast in the different areas and culture as well. So it would make sense. We've seen that a lot. That happens quite a bit, actually, that it's going to be localized usually. So that just would usually mean that eventually you want to do more PPCs to those regional areas when it comes to the States. If you're doing something that's localized like yours is, not for someone who's just selling nationwide, that you can never pull that off, then no point. It's too much of a lift to try to separate and partition that. So yeah. And the thing that here with your CTRLs, I would be very happy with that overall with what you're doing. So, but yeah, it is going to change. And sometimes you get no lift. Sometimes your CTRL goes down from your pain test to your benefit test. And that's okay too. Because I also saw that Alex asked about that. And I know that Dr. Nick saw that in there, but we can address that here in a minute. But ultimately, but before we get there, Stephen, I'm happy to see this at the moment. And it's funny how it just, again, works out that, look at the differences. I mean, if you spent $1 million on ads, knowing your numbers, and the only thing different, your conversion rates were the same, everything was the same, yet you're getting almost twice, like 50% higher in terms of the people responding to your ad. If all of your other numbers stayed the same, what does that do? That increases
Yes.
your revenue by 50%, doesn't it? Increases profit by 50%.
Yeah, well, being a new agency owner, it what it does for me is it just provides a whole ton of confidence. I would say I'm on the low end of what I charge my clients per month because I just feel like I've got something to prove, I have something to learn. And this gives me the confidence that if I'm getting these results and I know how to I'd have the systemology to repeatedly produce it, uh my value just increased and I can charge more to my clients go forward.
Boom. That is
100%.
exactly
And
right.
that's what
Because,
happens.
like I said, you don't have to be an oracle. You don't have to have been you don't have to have some magic insight into your market because you can run this test and reliably find out by actually having them click. And you're not even asking them. They don't even know they're being tested. That's the other beautiful thing. You've got no observer effect going on like you do with people doing market
Right.
research and doing focus groups and that kind of crap. I just wanted to do a whiteboard real quick, Chris.
Please.
A new
Please do.
whiteboard.
And Dave, I've been trying to bring you out, Dave Smith. I've been trying to promote you to panelist, and it just shows you're not clicking on the link there yet. So you might want to look at your screen. There it is. Okay,
And
cool.
Stephen, I might just need to get you to stop sharing so my whiteboard
I
can
got him. There you go.
up here. Right, here we go.
They've changed around where you stop the share for somebody. So it's like you have to go search for it other places. They don't make it that easy.
So if here's a pain and here's the ultimate benefit. And this area here represents the CTR all. It's because in that pocket of people, you're attracting that many people. But if I then come in and I've got, let's do it in red, and I do a specific benefit, and there's these specific benefits, just say I tested 3, then my overlap here, even though I've got a specific benefit, this doesn't always work, but I'm just giving you a visual of what we often see, is that you may see a slightly lower CTR all because this specific benefit is only now calling to or resonating with a smaller percentage of overall people. Because the point with the ultimate benefit was it's to be a hell yes to everyone who sees it. And that's why if we use it like that, it's so broad that all the people who might respond to a different specific benefit, they're all going to be going yes to the big overall overarching ultimate benefit. So even if sometimes you come out of the gate with a high CTR all when you've got your ultimate benefit and then you test a specific benefit, you might find you get a lower CTR all. But guess what? This is a really specific group of people. And then also you're going to get the winning one. You do the same with the challenge. And then you end up with that recipe we've talked about of a very, very contextually targeted message that's resonating with a group of people so high that the quality of those people clicking through and then reading the rest of the ad as you unpack that specific pain, that specific benefit, and that challenge, and then all the other psychological triggers that are used throughout an epic ad, then that is where the magic comes from. And of course, who says you're going to just stop and just do one pain and one specific benefit? Like we were talking about with Martina, you can end up going back and have, numerous different pains with numerous different specific benefits, all giving you different message sets that you can run with. So you don't have to run with this crazy notion of just having one ad that's somehow going to magically make your whole business come alive. And you don't have to have the stress of going, oh my God, I come up with one winning ad. How am I ever going to replicate that again? You don't, there's none of that. You literally just follow this using a combination of human intelligence and, as I like to use, a bit of AI as well to help me brainstorm it, and you get there. So hopefully that explains why sometimes you will see a drop in CTR all when we do this. The only other thing I'd say is, and I said it before, if we see CTR alls that are only in like 2 point something, 2.1, or maybe they're 1.95, that's on the unusually low side of what we're looking at and what we normally see. And so what I'd also do at that point is go back and look, has the ad been set up correctly? Has there been any human error in the way this has been set up? Like one example was this: we had someone with really low CTRs, and it turned out that they had this dynamic thing ticked, and Facebook wasn't even showing the above, like the headline, or was changing it around, and they didn't know. So most of their ads weren't even showing the test properly, and that's why there was a low CTR all. So if you've got a really low CTR all, it could still be fine depending on the market, but it might warrant going back and having a look at the setup and making sure there's no errors. And also even just going back and looking at the pains and going, did we test enough pains? Maybe we need to go back and brainstorm some other pains. Not now in this process, not in the workshop, you wouldn't. But in general, if we're looking at really low CTR alls, that's another thing we might look at. But to Stephen's results there, at a 4.6, I saw your CTR link click through for that ad was 1.67. I mean, most CTR link click throughs, you're looking at it like 0.5, 0.4. So no, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I saw that too, and it was making me uh frustrated because I picked up and started this agency just doing sort of out of the box stuff. I was doing lead forms through Facebook. And so with this, I'm trying to convert and I'm trying to learn on the fly about landing pages and get them all set up and get that done in a cost-effective way for my business model. And for now, I'm just having that link go to this guy's, his page, the page on the subpage on his page where they can fill out and get a quote. And I don't have anything hooked up to it, so I can't tell who's actually like clicking in there and filling it out. And yeah, it's paining me because I want to know how many forms I've filled out for him.
I know. Hence my caveat. Where if you get results, it's icing on the cake because
Yeah.
yeah. But you're right. Like I've had people who like their tech, their tech isn't set up. It's not tracking pixels, or there's some problem with it, and it has never stopped me being able to run a PPC test and charge them for it because I don't need all that tech set up in order to
Yeah.
show them what I know I can reliably produce every single time, and that is a winning PPC combination.
See,
So.
Stephen, let me give you a quick thing here to know what's ahead of you, right? You're a new agency owner, right? A lot of what we do, a lot of agencies come to us to fix messaging when they have problems and issues. Like there's always a few of those people like, oh, you got to call this guy if you got to make it work. We're typically those guys, right? And so because we understand, as you can see, we know how to figure messaging out. Just so you know, we have a handful of agencies that literally do this as the starting point in their agency. And some of them have a special a la carte offer where instead of a regular retainer, they will charge upfront just for this test and then to do an Epic ad because they've gone through our code program and learned how to do that as well. And the Epic ad does a lot more selling and pre-qualifying, right? And so they've learned that process. I have people who I've certified to run this. Now we don't let people teach it to people. We actually make sure that it's our copyrighted IP, right? But you're allowed to sell doing this test for people, right? People can pay you to do this test for them. You can't teach them the test, but you can do it for them. You just basically say, hey, I got a 3-phase testing process that I've learned that I'm doing here. We have agencies who just for that service alone charge $15,000
just to help clients
just to do the test
messaging
and write the ad, just to do the test and write the ad. And so that's how powerful this is when you're playing in the right circles. Some of the things you're going to understand, Stephen, as time goes along, everyone starts at a smaller price until they get confidence and they move forward. There's going to come a time very quickly where you're probably going to be able to add a zero to what you're charging. And I know that sounds like hyperbole. It's not, right? I myself, a long time ago, started at $500 a month. And I had local businesses that were like, all right, they write the check and then they hand it to me and then they don't let go of it. They're like, I need you to make me this money back before, or we can't continue next month. That's a tough place to be. But when you get very skilled at this and your confidence goes up, you talk to business owners that are at a different level, you add a zero to your fee, and they don't do that with you. They're like, tell me what we need to do. How can I support you? What else can I do? And they accept and understand what you're paying. And they're much easier to deal with, actually, believe it or not. You're playing right now at a level where you got people that are like, you need to make my money back this month, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the game plan. I want to go up market, but I feel like I need to prove that I can do it at the lower level first before I go up market. And I was doing it until I wasn't. And then I took your 5D ad course, and I'm like, everything that was working just stopped working. And then I learned why, and it made perfect sense. And it's like, oh boy. And then
there's a lot of people using Facebook advertising right now, selling courses, talking about the big changes that have happened and things don't work anymore. To a certain degree, that's true. That stems back to the May changes they made about their interest graph targeting and how they moved their entire system over to Advantage Plus targeting, even though they don't tell you that. Even when you elect not to have Advantage Plus, it's still kind of running like that, right? But you know what didn't change? We got even like better results most of the time because we were working before and working better afterwards. And some were just working the same. Some were working better. That's why you saw me hesitate a bit there. I'm like, and in most cases, or sometimes, because it's about the messaging, right? And what happened is that you had to be a lot clearer on the messaging. Specific messaging is better than broad messaging. That's how you get people to respond. So I would rather have a CTR all that is a 5 CTR all than a 10 CTR all using broad call outs that are not very specific to the pains, the benefits, and the challenges to people, because they're not going to buy. They're just clicking out of curiosity and they're not that motivated. But when you're specific about these things, those are the things that the brain needs to make the decision to move forward and either buy something or engage further. That's the important part to understand. So if your CTR goes down, that's okay, even because you're getting to a more specific person where those primary elements work for them. And then you can just go and replicate it. I'd rather have, instead of one big ad that has me a 8% CTR all, I'd rather have 3 ads that give me a 5% CTR all, because 3 different PBCs, what does that actually add up to? 15%, which is still double the 8%. Right? So this whole get one good ad and have it last forever, people use a lot of this marketing that says you're one funnel away. And so then, of course, I was actually involved in this where I have a buddy who's like, hey, you're one good ad away. I was actually the one that helped suggest that messaging. But here's the issue. That worked in 2017. when we decided to use it. They're still milking it, and it's not even reality anymore. But it's just not, right? It's just not. So, and that's it's a dead end with one ad trying to show it. Well, I got one good working ad. Let me find as many audiences as I can. No, it's not that's not reality, right? It's different now. So, yeah.
The thing for every actually, just I'm looking at the time, so I want to make sure we carry on. Stephen, have you got your challenges? Do you want us to look at them at all just while you're here? Because your PVC test is coming to an end pretty soon, or are you all good there?
Yeah. No, I think I'm good. These are my challenges. I got to think through it in terms of how the phrasing of the ad is worded. I think I'm looking at some of these challenges don't really fit into that equation so
Well,
much.
when you've had a chance to do that, make sure you post them in the group so we can have a look at that, because you
Sure.
clearly know how to set them all up now. So if you want to get some feedback
Yep.
on them once you've kind of figured that out, post them in the group.
Sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, we can do that. So we should probably move across to
Yes.
the
Yeah.
next. Right.
Thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
As we're doing that, I just want to add some even more context to what Chris said, because Chris, an example there was you have this kind of really broad call out CTR all of 8, and you'd rather one that's 5 because 3 of them is 15 and 15 is better than 8. Here's the other thing for everyone to know. The CTR all with the 8, because of the way it was set up, isn't going to produce the quality of leads that the 5% one is either. So not only is 3 ads with the PPC at 5%, you got 3 of them, now you're getting 15% of the audience. Not only is that more people, the ads just damn well better anyway. So you're going to convert a better quality audience and you're going to write better ads as a result. So it's just like that's why it blows the other approaches out of the water here. That's what I've been able to see for years. So you're learning some amazing stuff. Oh, the stories we could tell.
All right, Dave, come on out, bud. Martin, yes. Did they sell them on 15K using the Epic ad? Pretty much, yeah. Okay. Dave.
What's up,
Good
guys?
to see you. Hey.
Good to finally chat. I've been lurking in the chat, but here I am.
We always have lurkers.
I've got some stuff to share for sure and a lot of questions, but I'm happy so far with the PPC test. And I think there's a couple little nuanced questions I have that I'm sure you know the answer to. So,
Sure.
So the top here was when I was originally doing the brainstorming, and then throughout you guys answering so many questions and giving so many insights, I'm like, ooh, wait, that doesn't work. Oh, that doesn't work. Like, oh yeah, I'm focused on internal here, so this bottom is kind of more like what I actually tested in this section for PPC1, and then this was the benefits for 2. There's also things that I realized after going live with the test as well, where I'm like, oh wait, this isn't great, because a lot of these are opposites to each other, and I know you've talked about that. So it's like drugs not covered and drugs are covered, tested well, both. And I'm like, okay, well, I get it, like that. I guess that's a powerful thing, but that's just one caveat. My other question is around CPM. So let's look at the data. So this is PVC1 here. You can see my CPMs are a little insane. This is Medicare. This is the middle of annual enrollment period. And these are very high value markets. And then another mistake that I realized was I was using lookalike audiences off of like a really good seed list of about 40,000 contacts, but I only went up to 2%, which I was like, okay, that's just a couple million off. But then I had their offer has like certain zip code variations. So I think my true audience was only like 1.5 million maybe in the test. And so day 1, the CPMs might be like $100, and then day 2, they would like double to like 200, and then day 3, they'd be like $300. I'm like, crap, I'm just probably tapping this audience or something. Like the frequency didn't lift at all, but have you seen that before? Like, is that maybe a reaction you'd see with too tight of an audience when it starts to figure out like the pocket of that audience?
Yep. That's what will happen. Yeah. Specific messaging, obviously by definition, doesn't reach as far. But the difference is get one broad message, send it to everybody, you get like a 2% response. Get 3 different specific messages, send it out to everyone, and you get like 6% CTR all or 6% response on all three, which adds up to like 18% of out of 100 people per 100 people. So that's the difference in specific messaging. And because there's less people, they'll have to bid a little more aggressively, which is why your CPMs will go up. But yeah, 2% lookalike is like you're going to have higher CTR alls, but your CPMs are also going to be pretty high because of that, especially because you're only using the news feed right now, or should be. And so once you add in those story placements and reels placements and some of the other profile feeds and everything else, and IG to a certain degree, that liquidity gets spread around and you don't have to bid so aggressively as well. So your CPMs won't stay this way, but it's just important to isolate as many variables as possible because, as you might have noticed people posting in the group, some people are seeing different formats where, you know, like the second paragraph of text is showing up and all of that, which is a bit different for each phone. And so it's really tough to standardize all of that. And so we have to standardize as much as possible because there's still a little bit of what Facebook be Facebooking, you know, in what they do with the way they do their optimizations and change things. So we have to build that in, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But right now, I think you're right on with all of this. And did you optimize for lead or for purchase on this?
It was optimized for lead, and the source data was lead based. It was kind of like a higher value lead, like actual appointment bookings and meetings and things like that. So I think the source data was really powerful, and that's why I do think it was a very high quality target. So if I could do it over again, I would have gone 10% lookalike with the zip codes, and I think that came out to right around 5 million or something. And I think that would have been a much better starting point.
Yeah.
You'll see that the benefit test, the CPMs went up even more, but yeah.
But here's the good news about that. And this is for all of you who used very specific lookalikes. The specific lookalikes are more likely to convert as well if they're close to the seed audience of the people that have already converted to your offer. So what that means is even through the test, you're more likely to get a result that helps pay for the test, despite the cost being so high for your CPMs. It still helps take the edge off a bit when that happens. So that's some of the trade-off that you get with a very small specific lookalike audience, is that typically your chances of getting recovering some of this ad spend through the results you generate are higher. So that's about as much peace of mind I can give you.
Yeah, and I did get actual live leads, and the leads on the back end were actually high quality too. It's kind of a long funnel with pre-qualification stuff. And yeah, these were about 2.5 times the booking rates on the back end for actual meeting appointments. So it's a good sign. At least I can trust the data a bit in that case. So I'll go to PBC2 real quick, and then we can just talk about those challenges. But CPMs went up even more, and then I realized, well, doctor choice and drugs are covered were kind of exactly what I learned here, I guess. But I guess that's 2 points of data pointing towards those being important things, right? And coverage clarity was actually the first one, because it seems like a lot of the pain is around, all the confusion and the changes. There's tons of rule changes every year, and now Inflation Reduction Act and all these things. So I wasn't surprised. So that brought me to my PBC2 winner here was like this. And the Medicare, I just wanted to sprinkle into every single one. So wherever it naturally fit in the pane, I just put it in the pane for all of them. And then I figured later when we build out the optimize above headline, maybe I can figure out wherever the best place is to fit Medicare somewhere, whether it's in the pane or a different spot, with the common bond, maybe. I know some people say beneficiaries and things like that. I'm not, but yeah.
Yeah.
And here are my challenges here.
Yeah. The only difficult thing about that one is you've got despite on one and without on all the others.
Okay. So you try to keep them all uniform.
Yeah. It's just that with yours, the 2025 rule changes, I believe are an important challenge, because think about it. The definition, for those of you wondering the differences between pains and challenges, challenges are the things that will stop you from moving forward, in some cases broadly. And so the rule changes could be one of those, right? And so I'd really like to test it. This is one of those cases where it's almost like I would test it anyway, because if you say without 2025 rule changes, it's not, you could say even with 2025 rule changes, which still has the base word of with from without. So I would probably say even with 2025 rule changes, and then the rest of them, you could, even with phone hassles, even with impersonal seminars, even with hours of phone calls, I would just do the even with all the way through so it stays uniform.
Oh, so but these are all the negatives on this case though. So it would you wouldn't.
Yeah, you're right. It's still the base word of with. So this is one of those rare cases where it's not perfectly lining up in uniform, but I'd probably do it this way.
Okay.
So I would keep the without on all the rest of them and just say even with on 2025. Most cases we'd want to make them perfectly uniform, but this is one of those cases where the elements overcome everything else for the most part. So although that might be a little bit of a nuance, it's not a massive difference. So
And the 2025 rule changes in our data, just from the very limited amount of previous data, that was kind of one of the top things they focused on. They hadn't split test a lot of other things, but they just, the assumption, everybody always just says, attention seniors, 2025 changes, like figure out what changed. Like that's kind of what everybody in the space does. They just do the red sirens and call outs with changes. So I'm like, well, I'm like, I have to at least include that as a control in there or something to see. Like, you know.
I would agree. I mean, even my instincts are telling me it's really important. That's a big one. So I'd keep it in there. I'm assuming you're talking about everyone else as in like, this is like an affiliate offer. I think that someone.
I just mean everyone else in the, like me doing competitor research for just Medicare enrollment, or like agents themselves doing their own advertising. Everybody's just like, attention, here's the change, right? And they just change the year every year. So
that's why I'm in business.
yeah.
Because that's the one thing we're like, as you know, we don't want to look like everyone else. That's the point. All of the mental resistance comes into play when you do this broad call out that just doesn't give context. That's the difference is, attention, Medicare beneficiaries or whatever, like that's just talking to them, but it's not talking to them about their pains, benefits, and challenges. And that's where the decision making comes into play. So just calling out your avatar is like prefacing things, but oftentimes people only have one more dimension beyond that with their headline. Like they say attention seniors, but then they're like frustrated with this, or something like, and that's it. Right. And so it's just not enough context. And on top of it, we're so inundated with this whole attention avatar formula that the moment you see it, it's an ad trying to sell you something. So you just have natural resistance to it. This is a way where we create very little resistance because it doesn't feel like an ad at all. And believe it or not, people don't usually scan and see the little sponsored part of the post when they're doing it. They just read it and they're like, some of them know it's an ad, but because it doesn't feel pressuring like other direct call out ads are, they don't feel pressured. So they'll still read it like, oh, let me see if this seems relevant to me. Let me see what you got. Let me click see more. Let me read the rest. That's really the magic of it, is just not being like everybody else.
And the comments have been very positive. There's been a lot of engagement, people commenting. Somebody randomly was like, happy anniversary or something, even though there's nothing about an anniversary in there. It's like, okay, well, it's just a cute picture, I guess. But that's my last quick question is, the picture wasn't exactly neutral. And I was almost like, when you said at one point about don't make it too cute of a picture, I was like, dang, this might fall in that category where people are like, wow, what a beautiful, happy couple or whatever. So in the future, would you lean towards more of a neutral photo than this one? Yeah.
I would, but I don't think this is like necessarily that bad. So the good news is you just use the same exact one throughout the rest of the test. And your CTRLs might be a little bit higher overall because of this, because there's a few people that see that and are kind of like feel okay about moving forward. But because it's uniform, you're still finding what the best elements are.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, this is probably lifting all these CTRs or something because people love engaging with it. And at least I switched at the last minute away from a picture that was people in an actual one-on-one like Medicare meeting and things like that. And I was like, wait, that probably would have been even worse, maybe being really specific. It was like a happy person signing a deal with an agent or something that I'm assuming you would not want to run, right?
Because then you're signaling a specific aspiration and a specific benefit. Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
With the I mean, in the neurocreative workshop, we go through into a lot of detail about how to choose images after we've got the messaging. Because the image very, very much sets what I call a buying resonance in the brain. It's the very first thing that kicks off someone's frame of mind, so that then when they go ahead and read the ad, they're already in a better buying resonance as opposed to a cognitive dissonance, which is what a lot of images do. So that's like the next thing to really do. Once you've got the messaging, which is the most crucial, then you can figure out imaging. But I think this one's fine. It's not too over the top at all. And the other thing, just as a word for everyone, because I fall into this, right, is that you can get into this PBC test and you can start going, right, here's the perfect way to do the PBC test. And we should have exactly the same word. And that's the guideline. But the ultimate reason we're here, right, we need to take the science hat off sometimes and put our business hat on and go, I'm actually here to make money. And so you might be running these things, and especially at the challenge stage at PBC3, you've got without, and then you go, you know what, I want to test this 2025 rule change thing, and I really need to write even with or despite or whatever it is, and then it doesn't fit like an exact scientific study. Then you have to say, but I'm in this right now for business. And if you run that as part of the test and it just happens to get this outrageously good result, then you can go ahead and use that and make money, because that's actually why we're here. You wouldn't want to not do it just to have a perfect scientific test. We got to temper the two. We got to find what they call a golden mean between being like, precisely scientific and actually going for money and keeping the prize in mind.
Love it. Yeah, and there was 10 leads on the second one with benefits, so I am bullish on the challenge phase. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. All right.
I would assume you're probably going to have even more results coming from the challenge phase, because it starts to really because a lot of people will still have mental resistance that comes up like, okay, but, I don't know about this, or okay, but I have a question about this or that, or I don't know, I've tried something like this before. And the challenges will take those away where people go, oh, I'm ready. And so we often see lots of results in challenge tests. So not that I'm trying to set that expectation, but seeing that you have a couple outlier results coming already, that's really good to know. And the thing for you in the long term for scaling is probably going to be doing different events to optimize for as well, where the booking a call and submitting an application could also be using the same exact messaging, but a different event is going to tap you into different pockets of people that have that primary behavior. People who do submit a lot of applications and have a propensity to do so, or people that have been known to book calls for whatever reason, for anything, and you optimize for booking calls, you might have a higher percentage of people who actually book those calls. So you have multiple events you can optimize for to scale out to as well, in addition to all the different message sets you'll create.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have their devs actually working on the post back server side, like Cappy set up for the booked calls to post back in. And so I'm definitely going to test that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank
my
you,
man.
guys.
You're very welcome.
As we bring out Talia, just a question about lead form ads, Chris. Does this work for that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So let me for a quick moment there. The thing with lead ads is, so in essence, it does work. It still works. The only issue is that you have to cut off a lot more at the bottom, because the button is going to eliminate half of the space that you have to do your PBC test at the bottom. And so you have to choose carefully to make sure you always have, because you can only usually get about 2 elements, sometimes 3 if you have like a 1-word element. And so you obviously might have to cut a couple elements. Because if you have 4 elements, by the time you hit your challenge test, and that button has to be there on a lead ad, right? It doesn't allow you to take away the button. Lead ads have to have a button in their format. Then the tough part is you just got to make sure you still have a negative and a positive at the bottom. You're still going to get a significant amount of people responding to the elements. It's just that there's not as many to create as much clarity on the below creative headline, but you still have all that clarity on the above creative headline. So it still works, but what we find, because it has a button, people right away see it and go, oh, this is an ad. And so they're resistant, right? What we're attempting to do in the best case scenario is not have a lead form ad, so that we can have no button at the bottom, so that there's less resistance and people don't think, oh, this is an ad. They just think, oh, this is an article or they're talking in a different way here, or this might look like an ad, but it doesn't look normal like most ads. So I'm willing to give it a shot. So it's not that a lead form ad won't work, but you just have to make sure that you still have the negative and positive contrast in your below creative headline next to the button. That being said, we see CTRLs significantly lower on lead form ads. And I think it's for that reason, because the button is there and people are like, oh, that's an ad, right? So you can still do it and still test messaging that way. It's just that it doesn't typically work as well as ads linking to landing pages. All right. Talia.
Morning.
There you are. Talia, that's right. I said it right.
Talia, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little behind. I'm really sorry about that, but
okay.
I wanted to check with you. So I have done PBC1.
Okay.
Here is the test. I feel like maybe after hearing you speak today, maybe it's not that bad. Like my highest was 3.5. Does that still feel kind of low?
No, not at all. It's actually good for this niche. You got to understand the local marketing niches like this where you're working, there is like, understand that people like this are getting hammered every day with marketers trying to tell them what they can do for them. The fact that you're getting 3.5 means you're standing out.
Right. Okay, great. Well, that's the winner then. So it's no appointments. I love this image too. It's an AI woman, but how real does she look?
It works.
Yes. Yeah,
that's
it works.
awesome, huh?
Yeah, so that's the I might take a page out of Dave's book and make mine a bit more clear. But so this is the no appointments one. So PBC 2 is basically I just duplicate the campaign and then add the benefit. Is that right? This is the exact same stuff except you add the benefit.
Yes.
Okay, great. And the same with getting them to 1,000. I'll let this run impressions.
Yes.
Because this, yeah, okay, cool. All right, great. So then that's it. So I just wanted to make sure that I've got all this right. And how many, because this one cost me like $450, like obviously I'm in it for the long haul, so I'll spend the money to get the result, but I could test a little less now, maybe.
Well, yeah,
like
I mean, you ran it way over the 1,000 impressions for each ad set.
Yeah, I know, because
so you don't need to spend that much really, but it helps.
So I could just set a rule then to turn it off when it hits 1,000 impressions.
Yeah, if it's getting really good results, then you would have turned one off that was already getting you leads, and so.
Well, actually, I got a booking and I'm pretty sure I'm going to close her, so it'll all be worth it.
Look at that. See, it's all worth it.
It was so interesting too, seeing, I mean, I think it's a combination of I'm getting better at sales and with or without you attitude on the calls, like, so I'm much more relaxed, but she's also was really into what I was saying. And I was like, wow, like her attitude was very different as well. So
this is what all of you are going to notice. PBCs pre-qualify people with so much more context that they've actually talked themselves further along into whatever you're offering by the time they get to you.
Yeah, so I'm excited to kind of go deeper and cool.
So the only thing I would see that would be a tough thing to overcome, and you have to keep in mind, you haven't done anything wrong. It's that you've got a common bond that has a lot of letters, takes up a lot of space.
I know. And I was going to say salon owners, but it's not just salon owners. And it's annoying. I did notice that as well. But beauty service businesses is the common bond. I know, but I definitely, because this one's super long and I don't know that that's going to fit, above the single.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, for one, you don't have to say having to, you can just say without posting on socials.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But so with let's look at your benefits for a quick moment. And the other thing is you could have just said beauty businesses instead of beauty service businesses and maybe been able to still.
Yeah. But then I was worried about, I don't run ads for e-com. So I don't want e-com brands.
Okay. Got it.
That's why I was like, oh, they're like, because there's so many beauty e-com brands. Yeah. And so I thought they might think that I'm speaking to them.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to be more specific, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. So then, looking at your benefits here, more bookings, consistency is not, it needs to be clarified, consistent something, right?
Consistent
Um,
bookings.
so yeah, consistent bookings, you got it. More bookings, I don't know. Here's what I would say about that. More is not specific.
Right.
See, it's not clarified at a quantifiable amount, which is what people respond to better. So I probably wouldn't say more bookings. I'd probably say consistent bookings because that actually means, or say steady bookings because it's less letters. But I
Okay.
wouldn't test, well, you could steady or consistent. You could test both. You're probably not going to see much of a difference between the CTR, although it's possible.
Yeah.
But the knowing that you can pay your bills, first off, that's internal because now you're like knowing something, right? You want to talk about what happened. So it really be much more that says like to paying all bills or paying bills on time, something
Okay.
like that. Peace of mind is much more of an ultimate benefit.
Okay.
Full book schedule.
Fully, sorry, I should
Fully
say fully.
booked. I like it. Now remember, you're testing 3 benefits that are all very, very similar. So just keep that in mind. It's okay to test a nuanced version of the same main benefit because you're talking about getting bookings, right? And then you're just like
Right.
steady, consistent, or fully booked, which is a little bit different than steady or consistent. It is kind of fundamentally different, but they're very
Right.
related because they have the same word of like, booked bookings. It's
Mhm.
okay to test it because that's the gift that comes out of this. Just so everybody here, because I love to use all of this as a teaching point for all of you, there's one level of this that you do in this test, which is finding which one works the best, right? Let's say fully booked schedule works the best. Right on.
Right.
Well, in the future, you might know, okay, if it's all around fully booked, then we might want to find different ways to say the same thing to see if people actually respond differently to another way to say it that's clearer to them. Like fully booked calendar, it's like
Right.
change the word, but it's the same thing. We
Right.
don't want to see too much of that in this first test. We kind of want to spread a wider net to consider all the different possibilities of benefits. And then you can later drill down after your test into really nuanced differences that will help you scale even more because sometimes even the Facebook algorithm scans the text and they see the difference between fully booked schedule and fully booked calendar. And they actually send that to a smaller pocket or a different pocket of people that you can scale with, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
it's
that's what's
interesting you
available.
say that actually, because in the P1 test, I think we had this conversation before where it was like no appointments and then no bookings. And so what was really interesting was no appointments won, but no bookings wasn't even near the top. So that, and they're pretty much very similar, right? So people use the word appointment rather than booking.
You remember me saying that? Like they're probably going to use the word appointment more than booking.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting seeing that. Yeah, the data is strongly supporting that. And
Well,
even empty calendar is the loser, you know.
right. See how literally just one word can change so much. CTR all of 2.57 to 3.5, literally like 25% lift on that,
Mhm.
right? Or 33% lift or something like that, just on like something so small, such a difference, right? That's insane. And that's what happens when you extrapolate that out to a large spend
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, I'm getting 30% better,
Right.
like
Can
when
I,
you
Oh
can
yeah.
I
spent.
literally like reach out to everyone in the whole group and like grab them by the lapels and shake them to make sure you get this? I consulted on a large project. Think I can't say names, etc., but I want you to think of one of the biggest technology companies on the planet. And I want you to think of like who that could be, some names. And there was a product that was being launched. It was a SaaS that was being launched with coinciding with this particular product. So there's a huge press, there's everything. And the company involved hired an extremely well-known person in the field, like written New York Times bestsellers, consults to Fortune 500s, because this person goes and does all these focus groups and interviews with people in order to determine entire messaging things. And they're going to use this information that they got from people they interview, where they say things like, what do you want? What's important for you? That kind of stuff. All good, whatever. But then they're going to translate that messaging across to Facebook, right? And the cost to do this was 6 figures for them to get to invest in getting this information. And the tool that you've all learned right now gets you better information than that. And how you choose to turn that skill that you've got now into value for you, for your clients, is up to you. There's some people, depending on where you're at, and the markets you're in. But what I'm just saying is this skill and the data that you can get and the ads and the things that flow on from it are so incredibly valuable that, if you make some leads back now and you make some profit based on the testing you're doing, that's all fantastic. We love it when we see that. At the same time, what this is going to yield to you if you apply this in the next few months, over this year, over the next few years, is huge value because you've learned the skill. Like Stephen was saying before, he's now got the confidence to go forward and do this. So I'm just wanting to give you that virtual shake so it actually goes in. Like, do not put this on the same shelf as other little things that you've done that people just came up with in their head and never tested. This deserves to be like at a premium, like it needs to be taking up premium space in your brain because of how valuable and useful this is. Let alone transferring the messaging you get from this across to TikTok, across to YouTube Shorts, across to email. I mean, it's just crazy. So I hope I
Can
made
I
my
ask
point.
you a question about that actually? So let's say we get our winner. Do you use these like PBC3 winners in like video scripts, like the first 3 to 5 seconds of video scripts?
Now you're thinking like a pro. There you go. Yes. You see,
Yeah,
and you
without
still
it,
use
how
it
would
as
you
your
know what to put in a
framing.
video?
Sorry?
You wouldn't know.
Go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, without knowing this, you wouldn't know what to put in a video script. And the thing that I find, having created lots of videos, is they take longer by the time you get setups and mics and film this and you put the video out there. How are you going to know that the message you put or which word in the video is the word you should use? You don't know. To test it, you'd have to create a ton of different videos, just changing one word in the script. Could you imagine doing that? Oh, now I have to redo the video again, just changing one word. Like, you find it out through text, static image. It's dead easy to do. It's just, and then you can get the messaging. And we have seen not just us, but clients and students of ours run with it on different platforms and absolutely crush. We had someone in our group the other day who made a reel out of this and it cut their CPA in half.
Wow.
And they were already scaling.
Wow. That's insane.
I mean, I can't show all of you because I'm under confidence, but I can tell you what we did as one other quick example for this. We had someone who took the PBC as a headline and then added a little bit of the body copy, just like we taught you guys at the original part of this, just a simple body copy, right? Couple paragraphs. He wrote it on a notepad, on a big notepad in big letters. And then he filmed it with his phone and he read it aloud. It took 39 seconds. He uploaded that as a reel to YouTube. This is for insurance leads, one of the extremely competitive markets. He spent $95,000 that month and made $390,000 in profit.
Wow.
Literally, just the text on words on a notepad.
Like this kind of thing, like literally writing it out, handwritten like this, and just reading the words.
That's it. And saying, swipe up, get more. I'm telling you, I told you guys, you don't even know what's coming next. Like this is why I don't have to try to get on stages and manufacture this fake ass celebrity bullshit that people do and talk about I'm so great and then sell my crazy survey form when I'm doing a launch to actually get clients and don't even get clients that way and all the other BS that you hear out there. I'm telling you, we just flow right along with this stuff because we know what works. We don't have to deal with all those crazy bells and whistles and all that junk and all the shiny balls and all that other stuff. No rented Lambos, exactly, Kelly. Rich is like, borrow my Lambo. That's awesome. So yes, Talia. Now, go ahead.
Just one more question. So would 4 benefits then be enough to test? Or how many do you guys have a standard that you test, like a number?
We like to do at minimum 4. I mean, some people can only think of 3, and if that's within budget, I understand. But I would say 4 to 6, 4 to 7. You know, probably not more than 8 unless you're going to a massively large audience where you have enough auctions and impressions with that audience size. So, yeah.
And then the same with PBC3?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then how often do you do this? Are you doing this like, are you always running a PBC1 test and then always just constantly going back to square one and return?
On Wednesday, I'm going to show you guys what I do with this exactly. So I'm going to save some of that for then.
Okay.
But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised because you're thinking about it the right way. What constitutes actually having to do a new PBC test? There's a certain level of factors. And then there's other ways where we're going to have to finish out existing PBC tests, like going back to a pain 2 and like, okay, let me run a benefit test on that one and then a challenge test and finish that out. Right. So there's different criteria I'm going to give you all so that you're very efficient about this so that you're not wasting your money on stuff that has a lower likelihood to convert.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm excited to smash it out.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. Okay. Putting you back in.
Thank
So
you.
Chris, just as we just bring Rajit on, just letting you know it's
He's the last one.
It's 20. Yeah.
Yeah. But he kind of needed it. He was kind of stuck there. So we'll do this and then we'll get on out of here. Sorry, Rich. I know we're just kind of heading into time, but if you need something, we can reply in the group. Rajesh.
Hi.
Hey, sir.
Okay.
Here's the MIT professor, physicist.
MIT physicist stuck on marketing. Yeah. So my question, and I think it goes back to kind of being too much in my head and the expert's dilemma. I just want to make sure that I'm thinking about challenges the right way. So my winning pain was information overload. My winning benefit was winning trades. And so is it stuff like despite choppy markets, like those are the kinds of things that investors are concerned about? Like what if the market crashes? But that's not really oh, this is what I've tried before and problems I've had.
So you decided not to use a common bond?
I didn't use the common bond because winning trades already kind of has the bond in there. So it was space efficient.
Well, it has the aspiration in there, the solution and the what people want, but but see, the thing about the magic of the common bond is it's multidimensional. It can be the trades part, or it can also be a specific avatar where someone identifies as like, a professional, right? Or something like there's many different things that people self-identify as that you can then say, for you, this is for you, right? This is like what you get.
Yeah.
Paying a benefit.
So I'm actually running a couple of other PBC1 tests right now with the common bond to see if it made a difference. So
are you doing it to the same audience that you're running this test to?
Yeah.
Because you are probably causing higher than normal or CPMs that don't need to be that high because you're probably bidding against yourself.
It's something we call in this game entanglement. I hope you get the physicist to refer.
Yeah. Although, I mean, these overall, just using this methodology has dramatically dropped my CPMs. So, the algorithm's happy that the overall account is doing what it's doing. So
nice. And I know that you had said your CTRs that they weren't really as high as you had expected or wanted them to be.
No, I was just asking the data point, which I think Dr. Nick explained about why you won't necessarily see a lift because you're getting more specific when you get to the specific benefit, but when you stack on the multiple winners, you get the effective. But so
so yes, you're thinking about it right. All of your challenges here, you're exactly right that they are challenges. They're not pains. Pains are the initial thing that motivates you to want to have winning trades.
Okay.
And so the information overload, interesting that was the one that tested the best.
Yeah.
And I think I wouldn't say truly it's like the main pain motivator, but you're talking about a market that is already decided, like they're already trying trades out. So the information overload is kind of right where that's the pain they're experiencing at the moment. So that makes sense why they won. Yeah. Although someone could argue that might have been a challenge as well, but I think it's more pain in this case because they want to do winning trades. And while they're trying to do it, they're having like information overload as they're trying to get there. So it makes sense why people are responding. So we need to respond to people where they're at. So I think all of your challenges, maybe with the exception of expensive newsletters, which kind of is the same as information overload in a way. It's like you're still trying to get information, you know? But I would
Okay.
still test it. I would still test it in there. That's just my own thoughts on it, right? But again, we want to eliminate our biases. And so unless it's just overtly like, no, that's not even the definition of it, then I'm okay with testing it because we never know what will work. Some of the stuff that was the last case that I would never have thought of worked became the winners. So
But like in this test, is the challenge specific to the pain and the benefit that won, or
yes.
because okay.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to find, is that unique combination of what the pain, the benefit, and that challenge is. Because the challenge is, think of it as the constraint. Have you ever read Theory
Okay.
of Constraints?
I have not, but I get
Obviously
the
you get the, yeah, we all
Yeah.
get the concept there. And the challenge is the thing by definition stops someone from moving forward. The pain
Okay.
is the thing that motivates them to want to get the benefit in the first place.
okay.
So we're trying to grease the skids, so to speak, so that they slide through and don't have resistance to moving forward. That's what the challenge accomplishes.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's where, like, I still am learning how to think in my prospects language instead of mine. Like, what I think is a logical challenge is not the thing
But
that
then
stops
I'll
them
give you an
now.
idea, an example of that. Just two things that pop into mind here. The first one is just Chris used the word bias, and the thing that I know a lot of people feel about newsletters is they're biased. Is the people writing the newsletter want me to buy their trade? They're making some benefit. So a different thing again to information overload. I mean, expensive newsletters is a different challenge again, and then biased newsletters is different again, and people think that, right? And then the other one that's come up a few times for things like this is, and you'd have to figure out how to use it, is that a lot of people spend time, trawl hours on YouTube trying to learn stuff. And the YouTube videos are useless. It's a waste of time. And so one thing that we've used as a challenge or suggested for a few people as a challenge is you'd have to make it fit word-wise, but the concept of without wasting hours on YouTube. And
Okay.
amazingly, that's done really well because it is a challenge for people who find it's 2:30 in the morning and they've been watching some guy, rabbit on YouTube, and it doesn't give them a specific answer. And that challenge tends to really resonate with people sometimes. So it could be worth a test either now or in the future. At least I just wanted to bring that to your
Yeah,
attention.
no, those are all great because, again, like I think of it from the expert's perspective, like, oh, this is what I think would be the problem, but yeah, I'm not thinking about their journey and what they're trying to do to solve it enough because I just haven't done this enough. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. But that, like, I kind of got a little addicted to the testing as soon as I saw how this worked. I also, I've had some
You're not the
epiphanies
only
about
one.
how to talk about my problem in a different way.
Mm.
I'm going to reframe what they're thinking to say, oh, this is why these things are leading to information overload.
Yeah. Most people do problem solution marketing messaging versus pain benefit messaging.
Yeah. So
that's common. Yeah.
I mean, literally between this and the 5D ads and actually studying your own sales pages and stuff, I was like, oh wait, I finally get what I've been trying to do for a while, and I couldn't figure out how to do it because there was some missing piece in the concepts. And so
see, this is why I do this. I could go play with corporate companies, and I could go make big money doing that with big companies who are like just another number and they don't care. But what I like is people like you, Rajesh, that come on here and need help because they've got something very legitimate. And the only thing stopping them is knowing how to message that right to their market. And this changes lives every single time I see people. I have people in tears who will tell me, write me emails, send me videos, just like, you wouldn't believe what you've done. Like, I now quit my job. I'm on this full time. I have a legitimate business. Like, this stuff happens all the time. And so yet, although I have advisors that tell me, why don't you go deal with the bigger companies? You'd make so much more money. And I'm like, because it's just like soul sucking. It's just another number. Like, I love working with people at this level because it just makes such a big difference for them. So it never gets old. Feel free to let us know whenever something is going good for you. I love it. It fuels us doing it. It helps me, just look forward to doing it again. So
yeah, no, I mean, this has been like, and I've taken other classes before, and they frankly haven't done this, like actually explain it in a way that it's implementable.
Yeah, nobody
So
does.
it's very refreshing and also very, like, I'm totally pumped at this point.
Yeah, that's
I'm
good.
pumped for you.
So
I
Yeah,
really am.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
contagious.
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions, sir?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
So thank you so
All
much.
right. You're very welcome. All right. Glad it's working. Okay. So that's it for now. Now, yeah, Rich, I noticed you said you'd been in the group the whole time. Yeah, this is something. I made a video and I was in module 1 day, not even day 1, but like the pre stuff where I had like a 10-minute video and some text, and I was trying to make it as clear as possible. But the difference between this time and all of the other times we've done the message mapping workshop is that we weren't actively doing the 5D ad group, because the 5D ad is a new product that we're still even reworking and updating and making better. It's like a beta version, right? And that group has been there for years because it was my original course from like 7 years ago, right? But we didn't really use the group until recently again. And so this is a new variable for us where I really tried to make it clear that we have a separate group for everybody. And if you hadn't watched that video in there, and in the emails, I tried to say it, but people are like, oh, I'm already in the group. I'm already in the group. So I understand the confusion. I'm going to do my best to be clear about that next time. So thanks for the feedback. And yeah, I apologize that, we couldn't find a clearer way to do that. So last thing, before we close off here, just making sure leaving my past career behind was the easy part. Didn't have to wait for that. Rich, wrong group, 45 years of being lost, and it doesn't look like anything is getting better. Rich, welcome to the club. I feel like you too, honestly. Same experience here. A lot of masterminds.
You got me now, Chris.
What's that?
I said, you got me now, Chris. It's all good.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. God, where I'd be without Nick. A lot of masterminds over the past 15 years in courses. Nice to find the BS free zone. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, Rich, all good. Sent the request. I'll approve you here like right now. So yeah, that pretty much concludes, today. Dr. Nick, closing thoughts.
I'm loving this group. I'm loving this particular workshop. I mean, I've loved them all, but this is great. I love the energy everyone's bringing, and just keep on doing it. We're going to see this out at the end of this week. You will get there. You will, and if it's not perfect, the most important thing is the lesson and the process you're learning. And we're going to make sure we help everyone get results. And you just wait until you see where this leads. Think about my analogy now. I'm in the cave. You've chipped away. You've discovered a gold vein. We haven't even shown you the extent of where that gold vein leads. So yeah, keep excited, keep pumped, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning, same time, same place.
Sweetness. All right. Yes, ciao, exactly. So for tomorrow, we will be finishing out on people getting their challenge tests set up, and also coaching you more, and then also giving you some training on how to start moving forward with this. So make sure you are there, be there or be square. And we will see you all tomorrow.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.